Greetings, my name is David Carlson, and I'm a part of the Arlington Visual Arts Studio Tour. We are working on, looking forward to our fourth year of connecting the public with artists who live and work in Arlington. AVAST joins with the Fred Schnider Gallery, Arlington's first independent gallery, whose mission is building community through the arts. We would like to welcome everyone to this organic conversation between two powerhouses in the arts. Having known Kathy and Foon for many years, I thought it perfect to share an evening talking about art, friendship, and collecting. Katherine Freshley's career has focused on arts, humanities, and philanthropy. She currently consults with the Morris and Gwendolyn Cafers Foundation. She retired in 2009 as the Senior Program Officer of the Meyer Foundation, where she focused on arts, culture, and health wellness philanthropy for 15 years. Previously, she was executive director of the Arlington Arts Center, 1986 to 92. Before that, she was founding librarian at the Textile Museum, 1975 through 86, and supervisor of the Chicago Public Library's Reading and Study Centers located in 5 public housing developments, 1967 through 72. She has lived in Arlington, Virginia since 1972. Foon Sham received his BFA from the California College of Arts and Crafts and an MFA from Virginia Commonwealth University. He is a professor of art at the University of Maryland, College Park. He has had 43 solo exhibitions in the greater metro area, national and international. Recent commissions include the Smithsonian Garden at the National Museum of American History, Oakland Park in Arlington, and an upcoming exhibition at the National Building Museum in Washington, D.C. You can see his current exhibition, Underexposed, at the Fred Schnider Gallery of Art in Arlington. For an appointment, please call 301-852-8042. So greetings, Kathy and Foon. You two have known each other for a long time. We are looking forward to your conversation. So without further ado, welcome.
Hey, Foon, it's so nice to see you. When did you first start coming to the Arlington Arts Center? When did we meet?
I think it's back in 1988. When I first applied to be a resident artist in Arlington Arts Center. And I need a space to work. And I also realized Arlington Arts Center offers artists, inexpensive rent that I think I could afford so that I can have a place that I can go, work, 24/7 and then make my work between my work time. I had a job to teach and also, so I can come in between after school hours as well as weekends. So, and you were at that time executive director of Arlington Arts Center. I think that's when I first met you.
And I think, Foon, you were the first artist to get studio space under the new policies that gave you I think you could be in your studio for 6 years. And prior to that, it was like once you were in, you were always in. And you also were the first, the sculptor that we allowed that the Art Center had. So that was really fun. And because I was often writing grant proposals way into the night after you started working, it was only the two of us in the building, often late at night. And we would have lovely conversations about what you were doing or practical things like, oh, the fire marshal is coming tomorrow and
right.
You better clean up your sawdust, etc. So we had this just a nice communication and we became friends, I think.
Over the years, yes.
Yeah, definitely over the years. And, it was interesting because you were of the new, that first new wave. Were there other first wave artists that came in just at the same time as you, or were you
Yeah, I think what happened is, in order for me to first sculptor, I think for some reason I can remember the detail. I was end up teaming with Mark Robarch, who is
Yeah.
another sculptor who ended up sharing the room with me, because I don't think, I'm sure from your standpoint, the art center would not like to have another painter sharing with me who do clean work. Then
No.
my sawdust will be just covering the whole canvas with sawdust before they even start painting. So I think we end up
Technique. Yeah. So Mark and you shared space.
right. Which basically about 300 square feet, without a drawn line, basically an imaginary line between the whole classroom, which was an elementary school, was a classroom in the past, right? The sink was really, knee high, really short, and there are, not many, what they call outlet there. So I have to make adjustment with a lot of extension cord plugging everywhere, both me and Mark.
And amazingly, we didn't, the electricity didn't go off very often. So maybe it wasn't as bad. Now, where your studio is now where the main gallery.
Yeah, it has now my former studio space.
Were combined, and now we're the main gallery. I noticed, I've been looking at your catalogs, and early on and often periodically, you have included other materials, but you settled on wood. And by the time you came to the Arlington Arts Center, you were exclusively wood. And over the years, you've added bits and pieces. But why did you, what was it about wood? And
well, now I can tell you why, really, really clearly, because I love wood as a unique material. That is a natural material that has its uniqueness by two things or three things: color, by its grain structure, and by its what they call identity as a species of the tree. So it has also distinct smell, right? So wood is the only material from what I have worked with: concrete, steel, other casting material, plexiglass, which I started with when I was in school in California. But wood is such a unique material that no two pieces of wood are alike. Just Kathy, there's no two pieces of wood are alike. You can call them pine 1 and pine 2 or oak 1, oak 2. They are not identical. Just check your fingerprint. The fingerprint in your hand is unique. It's no longer, other people do not have the same fingerprint. Same as wood grain. They are unique. So each piece of wood has its own character. So I love combining different wood species together to create an overall pattern that also become unique, because there's no other way to make that second pattern again to match that. So how I discovered that, frankly, it was the last, during grad school when I was a poor student, which couldn't afford buying anything expensive, is went to today we call dumpster hopping. We jump into people's dumpster and take out whatever people throw out. And mostly they were 2x4 painted with screws and nails in them, and I can afford to pull them out and inexpensively can, remove the paint by sanding it off. And I learned a laminating process when I was in undergraduate school. Then I can take all this scrap wood and laminate it into nice block of wood, or construct them with pieces, and then make all my work based on basically inexpensive discarded material. And wood is one of the one that's so versatile in a way. You can laminate by adding, you can also carve it, you can also cut and sand within a very inexpensive means of shop, operation.
You have, but you haven't been laminating recently as much as you have been building with the wood. So when did that transition happen?
Well, I was laminating way back. Actually, back into Arlington Art Center, I was still laminating, but then I painted them. So, when I paint them into a full piece of wood, that people don't even know all the blocks were laminated, all the scrap were laminated to become one giant piece. So at the show at that time in 90, I was showing full, large scale sculpture with laminated wood, and nobody know they were laminated. So they were kind of like missing all the beauty of the individual blocks inside.
Right.
So finally, about that turn about 1991, I started making a piece called Ruin at that time in Arlington Art Center that I decided not to paint on it. Then become showing individual grain, individual color of the wood, and even the smell. So that shift, I think that happened around, around 1991 exactly. I think the last time I have that basically laminated wood around that time was about 90. And 91, I start showing all the construction, all the block, all the seam, and that has been the change since then.
Yeah, I remember going into your studio and seeing pieces starting and then shaping, and
right.
A lot of discussion about them. And I've always been so impressed, especially with the big ones, and how well engineered they are, and the amount of math. I'm just always been sort of dazzled by that. And did you study
engineering?
Engineering, yeah.
That's always a question being popped on my presentation. No, I did not. I in fact did not really well in the science field. I was asked to be, study science so I can become, one of the doctors or engineer, all that. But I was not, once I hit calculus, I was shut out. I couldn't deal with that anymore. But then, my work, my practice in terms of building sculpture is very simple. I'm very, in terms of building thing, I basically build by blocks now, basically build by blocks. Even lamination is built by blocks, by layer of wood and glue it together under pressure to become a bigger piece. Mm-hmm. And I always take things, you give me a tree at this point, I still have to cut it into planks and then become blocks and then block. And then I start build. Why I do that? Because if I use the tree trunk as is, I'm limited to this overall size. I cannot go beyond it, because I can only remove and I cannot really, expand the piece in the form I want. So I basically, once I cut into blocks, then I can build up whatever form I want and then expand into larger than I am now. I build, sculpture that are 28 feet, how can you get a tree trunk that size to carve from, right? So I basically would get multiple blocks to build to that larger scale that I can handle.
Yeah. And do you feel that that still gives you a tremendous range of possibilities for creating your work, or do you feel a little limited by that block structure?
No, I think the only limitation with block structure, which is not a cohesive one piece of wood, you still have to rely on what I call joinery connection. Okay. So either by lamination in the past, or when you go to a certain size, you beyond your lamination method because you cannot glue that size in scale, right? So you end up using hardware. Then you rely on contact between screws and bolts and nuts and bolts. That I have done all that. But also then you have a disadvantage. Then, then you worry about security when blocks between block can break, right? So what you end up using, if I do large work, I end up using an inner metal structure that are supporting the inside you don't even see, or they build in, like the piece you helped me install in Richmond, have actually metal, rebar structure, nuts and bolts inside to connect between all the wood pieces. So they are safe. My responsibility as an artist is beyond just building it, making it, creating it, but also have to make sure it's safe to the public so they won't get hurt.
Right now, Foon, you have an exhibition at the Fred Schnider Gallery. The gallery, we're really excited about having a professional a gallery in Ballston and Arlington. It's really great. And you have an exhibition called Underexposed. And those are all small, well, most of them, really small pieces, very intimate pieces, and some new materials. Can you show us some of the work that's part of that exhibition?
Yes, I'll be glad to. Let me go ahead and share screen, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
So this is one of the pieces that you have, you have seen in the past, and this, this particular group of work selected for this exhibition were called underexposed is because they were many of the pieces. Let me correct myself. The piece you actually saw in picture. I think, many of these pieces.
One of your catalogs, and
Right. And
not an exhibition in the Washington area. I believe it was in California or the state of Washington, maybe.
This one, I think, is elsewhere, was shown in Delaware. And so I'm bringing back some pieces that are being exposed outside of this region. So there are many of the pieces that I include in this exhibition. So I call underexposed are not exposed in the, all the audience around in this region, what I haven't, that I have exhibited before.
So you've included stone. Is it stone that you've added to this piece?
No, actually it's not. As I told you, my practice, I've been collecting material that I discarded, right? And one of them is including tree that I have to cut down in my house. So this piece, you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Yeah, the inner piece is actually a tuning poplar, that a tree that I had to cut because the root system started to get into my house. And I had to cut it. And I feel always have a hard time leaving some material gone to waste. So I saved the tree, they cut into 2 feet, 18 inches, stumps, shortcuts. And then I turn, then I start, carve it into a spherical form. And it's kind of like a nut kind of shape. And then at the same time, retaining the cracked area of the tree material already there. At the same time, I practice in Arlington, since Arlington Center. I've been, again, still, not so well off as a young artist. I was still collecting material. Then I getting a little smarter. I go to the, to the high-end lumber company who sell exotic wood. And they have also material. There are ways that come from very good quality wood, such as mahogany, oak, cherry, and all that, because they build expensive table from them. Yeah. But they do have to, get rid of some scrap. So I have to kind of end up going to their dumpster and buy the inexpensive, high quality cut-offs, what they call cut-off, meaning scraps. And then, so the lower section of the piece were built with this, again, block by block, layer by layer, which is similar to a laminating process, except I just glue them together and then create a form that I've been an artist doing abstract form for a while. Basically, it's a form that built up with layers. And I like to enclose things. And I'm really seeing, obviously, along, my work portfolio for 30 years, I like to enclose things. So I like to kind of free thing, a branch that I collect, removing all the outside bark area, become a, nice, beautiful, elegant, long, lenient form. And then insert it to the, the tuning poplar that I cut from the tree, sections. And then combined with the man-made material, I call, high-end lumber with different colors, cherry and walnut, and to create this combination of two things is like, then end up look like somebody having a fish out, and fishing in the water. So I never, do a piece out like illustrating a title, but the title came after the work was made.
Yeah.
So I made the piece, I like it, and then with the Y at the end kind of signified the little action of fishing, but I did like fishing a lot at that time. So I was kind of like, give it a blue portrait of what I do. And at the same time, this is a kind of a sculpture what I made. But
so this is one of the larger pieces in the show. Show us some of the other pieces that you're.
Yeah, the next one I'm going to show you is the piece called
the other larger piece.
Right, it's called larger in this space, right? So it's called title in exterior. As you may know, when I talk about capturing surrounding something, then I'm also interested in this particular concept called in exterior, in meaning inside and outside. Sculpture that have interior as well as exterior. So vessel form, that also has that's been doing for a while. But this particular one, what engaged me, it come from experience that I was traveling out west, southwest, right, in Grand Canyon. You all been to that many times. I've been there a couple of times. But the first time, I was so impressed. And the grand scale of that deep canyon, going 6,000 feet up, down, and see the river running across. I was basically overwhelmed to the point I feel very small, Kathy. I feel so small. Yeah. It's the fact that how much I can make to compare with this grand scale and beauty of the natural world. There's no way I can even compete. So at least why I think maybe I can capture one thing is the, the interior, the looking of the piece of the interior, which is that experience looking at that gorgeous canyon going down,
down.
continuously down and down and down. And so the piece I have all these kind of viewpoint, you can see my cursor. These are kind of like little openings around 3 or 4 places around the piece. You can get a chance to kind of get in your body, get in that position, which is about waistline, and look into the interior and then capture that kind of similar experience. To tell the truth, frankly, no way I can compete with the natural world. The natural wonder is way beyond I can reach. So I can only kind of exercise some of what I can create within the man-made world that I think can capture that experience of seeing the beautiful layering of the deep, gorgeous space inside that I can imagine down and down without seeing the end of it. So, and then the construction is made of all these beautiful scrap wood that are mahogany and cherry that people kind of get rid of in the, they cannot use it because they are too short.
But they also give a sense of shadowing and depth that having it all the same wood would not.
Yeah, exactly, because there are different kinds of wood give you different colors and tones and texture as well. Some of them actually have the original lumber wire kind of table saw cutting marks on it. Mm-hmm. So I don't mind people kind of trace the origin where it come from. At the same time, I'm the one who put it all together. So so this is the second larger, maybe another larger piece in the show.
So then show me something else.
Yeah, that was shown in California, never shown in this region. So that was a reason I included. And and I was being inspired by the nature. I also collect stuff that I find it really beautiful. It's a piece of rock that I went to New Mexico that I collect that has that beautiful color. They call some slate that you can pick up along the road and they will just stumble and crack. And then this is a piece that I could hold on to. And the beautiful color of that range of, reddish, brown and to yellow and reddish, the gentle color is natural. And again, acrylic painting doesn't match that kind of natural beauty. So I kept that wood and bring it to my studio until I built a piece called Vessel of Rock to kind of honor and respect the fact that Mother Nature can give us a force of power that can hurt us. But at the same time, I'm building a vessel form to kind of saying that, that power can be also be healed and protected and repaired to give you that kind of a human can also protect ourselves from that Mother Nature force of from this call.
Because when I saw that piece, and I've seen it in the catalog also, but when I saw that piece, I immediately thought Southwest. There was something about it has all these textures as you work from the bottom up. It seems like it's carved. There's a lot of different techniques and stacking to give it the impression, just like the larger piece that we saw, to give that sense of age and also that it's been worked on for centuries.
Yeah, I think though, because this is the one I say, beside building with blocks, I did do carving on it. On each block that we're carving in it to show the different texture, grain structure that come from it. Right. And because of the different, again, layer, this is top is elder, and then go bottom, become pine, and then go into, Douglas fir. And some of them, they would have this called grain structure that are darker than the other. It's a similar thing. You see the layer of rocks in southwest, in the layering of in the canyons as well in Utah, all those layers of rock that are erode away, then you see the layer. And somebody said that way, this piece, you ever go downtown to see the American Indian Museum?
Yes, this does. It has
the exterior of that building, you actually have a very similar block building kind of a process, things like that. So So, let me show you a couple more pieces
Yep.
and go into the other material. These are a couple of pieces that have as a using other material. The title is interesting, called Pomelo. Is a kind of an Asian fruit that most of you might be not familiar with. They're basically a giant pink, what they call a giant, like a giant grapefruit.
Okay.
The skin is very thick. And the inside is actually have a pinkish, where the, mesocarp, the like orange, the inside between the juicy part and the outside skin. That
Okay.
part is actually pink. So I use, foam material to create that foam the color, and then layer with wax. And then inside is actually, you cannot see the detail here, which I don't have a shot of. That I couldn't find that slide anymore.
Well, they'll have to see the show to.
Yeah, you have to go to see in person, but they are a little bit of piece of rice also embedded to the wax. So from the top, you also can see the what they call rice grain, like long grain, which is my favorite kind, and inside this whole inner layer. What it does is actually a self portrait. My outside has the skin color, but the inside is all Asian. What I have is a lot of rice in me. That is basically a vessel by myself. And
But I don't
then
think you have a hard exterior like that.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, this is basically original build the block, right? After you shape the overall kind of a form, vessel form, then I carve it away to create that texture, which is the new color of the inside of the wood. This is the kind of darkened stained area of the wood.
Okay.
Now, and then follow up would be another kind of a new self-portrait in a different way about what I practice and what I love about wood. I've been collecting wood over these last 30 years, traveling and collecting and discovering, and also keeping some special wood. And this is the kind of wood that I, got it actually from some floorboard that I imported from South America. Now I actually have, gone to South America in Suriname to build a sculpture with the same kind of wood there. But before I get there, I discovered this wood is very hard, called ironwood, very dense. When you cut them, they don't airborne. They actually drop off from my saw. They just go straight to the ground like metal dust. And these have a distinct smell that are quite different from all the wood you have smell. So in a way, this is another self-portrait of me being actually all I have inside my body. I tell you, Kathy, I don't know how much sawdust I have in my lung. I have a lot of it. At UNC and ACC Arlington Art Center, they finally, the fire marshals step by and say, Foon, you got to, clean up these sawdust because of the extension cord around. You have a danger of causing a fire. So I believe that, but at the same time, I was not happy to listen to that at that time. Sorry.
No.
But anyway, this one, I want to actually have a little dipstick in there. So I carved this, floorboard and turn it into a pointed dipstick. So you can pull that thing out from the jar, which is a glass blower who worked with me to produce that jar, which is shaped like an organic shape that actually have the sawdust inside. In order to keep the smell, I put in the jar, plugged it with the wood block here, and then you can pull it out and smell the wood and then put it back on. So it's basically a little dipstick there.
How long has the sawdust been in that jar? Because when you lift up that dipstick, the smell is so evocative.
Yes, it is. So, but then if you don't enclose it, it's not, always volatile, right? It disappear in the air. So if you come to my studio, I have, over 50 jars of different sawdust that have different colors and smell. You will be welcome to get a, what I call a taste test. So let's move on to sort of couple pieces. And again, I use wood to the extent, to the point, even sawdust is not waste to me. I start from collecting wood people throw away, then also get to the new area is this is a wood I've been doing now, more irregular, more texture. And then all of a sudden I still remember I talk about interest in the interior as well.
Right.
Then how do I look at this piece to create interior? What does the inside shape look like? again, the wood is made of all kinds of scrap wood from, walnut here, right? Poplar.
But you could have cut that scrap wood multiple ways, but you've created this interior shape.
Right. So yeah, I love to collect all these different wood because everybody throw that away. But I throw my wood out in the street, nobody will pick it up. Frankly, it just become like trash. But anyway, so in 2013, 14, they were doing a lot of what they call Ironcast in school where I teach, and they always ask me to Foon, why do you do make a mold to cast iron? Yeah. And I was not a metal guy. As I told you, I've done metal work and I'm not a metal, person so much in terms of material. So I find out how can I get the interior to get a look what is inside. Mm-hmm. So this pouring iron business is basically pouring molten iron into a mold and then become hardened. And then you see what the being cast on the mold. Okay. With that, I was not interested to make the conventional mold of that. So I was just interested to make sculpture, to make wood. Oh, exactly. So I make this piece. I actually really like it. But at the same time, what I can do is what happened if I pour metal inside. So what I did is start doing that.
This is before.
Yeah, put this piece in the sand mold, packed with sand, and then eventually, pour it in, and then came out. This is what happened with the iron. In this case, in this particular one, end up with using bronze to pour the inside and let this lava running metal and the way it pour, the way it solidify, basically the process end up burning the molten metal, burn the wood into charcoal, and then go in between those creases and valleys and pieces and gaps between the wood block. See, again, Kathy, without the wood block, you would not get this because the wood block had gaps in between. And that's the splash from the top to give that little crazy lava looking spill. So
often that's removed, but you have kept that like skirt or on.
So at the same time, people might not realize it is metal at all, but just couldn't figure out what that is. But at the same time, because I kept record the whole process of darkening, the burning process. So I can start thinking about how can I incorporate wood back to the piece. This is all metal, right? And the next one, I'll show you that the cast was the similar process produced by the wood block. You can see block by block.
Right.
Then I kind of give you back to the picture. Maybe this is what it was before. Right. So actually, the third step, I building a layer of wood by again stacking with the wood that has basically this floorboard or have tongue and groove in it that give you that line of groove is in here that actually happen in the casting as well. So I try a different way, and then I get even more intense, and you can see and getting, what if I continue to increase the wood texture, see if it can compete with the casting on the bottom to have a combination of both, and then getting into this called bits and pieces of wood that I get it down to about 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 by 2 inches long, things like that. So this is something that I do usually show in my exhibitions that I've been kind of what I call experimenting and researching and creating a way called lost wood method rather than lost wax method by the conventional casting in most expert in the foundry. So this is kind of not the right way to cast because you lose the mold. I lose the sculpture every time you cast a piece.
But is this something that you're really excited about and feel that this is a direction that you're going to continue to pursue, or?
I cannot answer that, because it's more like a stretching out to my portfolio that I am also keep on looking for something that I'm interested and go beyond. So find something new. At the same time, I don't know whether there's an end point here or the journey keep on going, but at the same time, I am keep on exploring as much as I can. So,
okay.
I might just show you one quick one. So they, that one that it's about by my practice, so one of my practice is about, yes, I've been telling you, collecting waste material, right? Then I've been getting a lot of calls of people that have tree that I need to cut down, tree that are fell. So in College Park where I teach, they have a piece that, big 100 years old oak tree need to cut down. So I've been getting calls all the time now. Okay, the people I got calls, do you want this wood that fell from my, backyard, and that 5 tree need to be removed. So this is one of the big ones that people love, called chapel oak. And so I got a call to see if I can do any, can I make a sculpture of the wood? So I would go through real quick about the process, then end up, making some pieces out of it. You might be, I think, remember being in there for the piece. So quickly, it was the tree. It was the day before it cut down. There was the date, before it cut down, and the next day become this.
Yeah.
And then become all logs and what they call discarded material. So then I am using them with my assistant in school, grad student help me to cut them into pieces, and then make them into small work called chapel oak vessel. These are all from the same tree material within the core, the core white oak. And then, which is also a vessel piece, have a little opening in the top, and then gradually making a second proposal, what I can make it into the large scale for the show called 48th anniversary for Arlington Art Center, where you start out as a director. 2014, they have an anniversary of 40 years. I was invited back to make a piece outside.
Right.
Then end up proposing a piece that are more shaped like an acorn, which is white oak tree, of course, related to acorn, which is their reproducing agent. So I said before, I like interior. I like to enclose people inside. So basically the piece will be at least big enough for people to come in. And this is basically a sketch drawing with me, with a person inside, and the footage and the shape, and then build it in my studio in Arlington, in my own studio now in Lawton, Virginia.
Which seems a little larger than the 300 square foot you had.
Exactly, which I have to pay dearly for the monthly, fee for it. But at the same time, I need to have that space to build something large enough for my vision now that I see something bigger. And so this is all one from the same tree. And
wow.
took me a whole semester of 4 months to build, and eventually finish. And outside your former Arlington Art Center. The reason I bring that up because it really relates to where your home was as executive director, and I want to bring so this is the opening.
Did you have the dance performance?
Right there, you see it?
Yeah.
That is the the opening where I don't know where to put these guys, but basically in this, with the opening, there's a dance performance, and the two dancers dance around the piece, and there's a guy who I invited to play beautiful acoustic guitar inside, because the piece is shaped like a dome in a way, a dome, whatever they call it, and then have a spherical echoes that are excellent echo from any, like basically you are playing inside a drum.
Yeah.
So
I remember how lovely it was.
Do you see you in there?
Yes, I do. It was
that's why I include this. This can put 30 people inside. And I love children going in and out. And one of the things, they keep going in the interior of the piece and outside. So I think, I would stop here. There will be the other pieces in the show that are also that I would invite you all to come and take a look. And this is a scale model of a larger piece, but also time for you to just give a quick look. This is a piece end up in a big scale in the hospital called Shaw Cancer Institute in Inover Hospital in Fairfax. So all right. So Kathy, I think I heard that you have a good collection of work that you want to share with me, what you have collected over the years. Be glad to let you share with us what you have.
Thank you. And thank you for showing and talking about your work, Foon, because every time you talk, I always learn something a little bit more, which is which enriches my understanding of the work. But when Jerry and I first started, when we were first married in the 60s, we did not think at all that we were collecting art. We just knew that we wanted art in our home. We don't know exactly why that impulse, but we didn't grow up in families where art was dominant. But I knew I wanted that. And so we would go to art fairs. And this is the first painting we ever acquired. We thought galleries were very intimidating, usually snooty people that made you feel like you couldn't afford anything, and you probably couldn't. But we did go to museums a lot. And so this was a piece, the Near North Art Fair. It just appealed her haughtiness. And one of the other things we enjoyed is that we enjoyed talking to this artist. We've lost touch with him, but this was bought in 1967, I think. And now the next piece is much later. And this is in 97, and it is our daughter, but the photographer is Lisa Metzger. And you might remember Lisa because she was a photographer.
Yeah, I remember.
Studio in the basement of the Arlington Art Center. She shared it with David Tilson. So she took this as our daughter's wearing her grandfather's bowling shirt in our backyard. Sarah did not like the normal graduation with the velvet drape. And so we said to Lisa, take a photograph of Sarah, and Lisa set this up, and it captured everything that Sarah and I wanted Lisa to capture. We don't have much photography in our collection. We don't collect it. But as time went on, we began to just become, one, a little more sophisticated, and two, when I was at the Art Center, I began to see how hard, if you elected to be an artist, it was usually a cobbled together experience. You did part-time jobs, you taught, but you were always kind of doing your art and something else in order to survive. And so the longer we were at the Art Center and the more impressed we were, we started buying other things, but not before. So this is the first piece that I did not buy this. It's a David Carlson piece, and it was like 1987 or 8. It was in the first exhibition that when I was appointed executive director, it was the first juried show after I became executive director. And I walked into the gallery just as we were opening the door for opening reception, and there was a sold sign on this piece. And I was very excited. And I said to Barbara Franz, my assistant, I said, Barbara, when did someone buy this? And she said, I bought this. It's a gift for you. And, and I said, oh, Barbara, you can't afford this. And she said, well, if we don't buy artist work, how can we sell artist work? How can we convince other people to buy the artist work? And so for many, after that, for maybe about 2 years, every show that we had of a juried exhibition or it was just mainly the juried exhibitions that were group shows. We would buy each other pieces of art from the show. So the next time I bought this piece is much more recent. It's about 2012. And this was, it's a diptych. And it was made by one of my dearest friends. And she was having an exhibition in 2014, but this was made one of the first pieces she made. It's called Earthbound. And her name is Leslie Sherman. She lived in Ohio. We did a lot of traveling together. And she loved the wild and the cosmos. And she was started on the show. She learned that she had this solo show about maybe 2 weeks after she learned that she had ALS. So this is very emotional for me. And we have this in our dining room. And so after that, we have other pieces. While I was at the Art Center, Tom Brody, who owned Brody Gallery right down the street from the Phillips collection, Tom was on the board of directors in the early, like 91. And so we had a meeting, he and I, talking about the Art Center in 92. And we were talking about collecting and everything. And this Andrea Way piece, it's a silk screen. It's about 7 printing. It's called Cicada, very appropriate right now. And it has all these cicada wings as part of it. And Andrea Way exhibited at the Art Center, but was not very often because she had already established her career. But so Tom let me buy this sort of on the payment installment plan. And that was a wonderful way for us to acquire more expensive pieces of art at that time because we had 2 children and we had obligations. And I worked in a nonprofit organization that didn't pay very well. So it was another method of you love beautiful art, but how are you going to afford it? And you can afford it by talking to the artist and figuring out ways. There was one painting, I think we paid monthly for 2 years. It was just a steady little stream of income for the artist. And it was a way that we could start affording more expensive pieces. And then after this is another Arlington Art Center artist. When I was there, this is Andrea Uravich. And she was on the 2nd floor and did these wonderful constructions. And year before, anyway, she had an exhibit at the Fred Schnider Gallery also. And this piece is a tribute to William Morris, a designer and artist that I have always loved in that whole art and craft, English art and craft movement. So we acquired this because in retirement and during COVID, we're not traveling as much, so all the travel costs that we've been lately buying more art, which is kind of fun. It's our way of, bringing things into our collection. We've decided, I guess sometime back, that we wanted to support living artists. We didn't want to support artists that, have established a reputation and had died. We wanted to support people who who were alive and needed support. And we've made a tremendous, we really, that has more and more become the focus. And it's more local artists that we're that we supported, though we do have other people in the collection. And one of them is David Carlson. So here's another of David's. So after Barbara bought my first David Carlson, Jerry and I, and as so often happens, we became friends with David and his wife, Tara. And so we have been following his career. And like you, we've been following your career. And when we see something we really love, we're either supportive, and sometimes we can afford to buy it. This is, I think, Dave, we've moved on, but that piece also had been purchased over a time. I think that was one of the ones that was purchased over 2 years. My husband is a musician. He's always, he's played in jazz groups most of his life, but particularly the last 24 years about. But he doesn't play very much anymore. But this is the entrance into our office, and we have Andrea's piece under the piece that you saw earlier with one of Leslie's earlier works, Celestial Navigation, is on top. And you can see a print on the wall on the left. So often we have about 12 paintings that we aren't hanging right now. So we've really, when I started thinking about this show, I started just walking around, and we've got about 60 pieces of work that we own. I'm kind of shocked. I've never totaled it all. And this is our most recent acquisition. This is Scott Hutchinson's piece, and it and he had right before you, he had an exhibition at Fred Schnider Gallery, and we've just hung this piece in our living room, and we are loving it. David's piece that you saw just minutes before is across from it. And so there's this lovely dialogue. The other thing that you will see in this photograph is are some wood turnings. These are by Daniel Kvich, and he's from Washington, the state of Washington. And so in addition to paintings and some sculptures that we have, yours.
Thank you.
We also collect wood, turnings and ceramics. We have, and again, not large pieces, but mostly living craftsmen whose work we really appreciate. And this, you may recall this piece. We got this you had a gallery show, a little gallery that didn't last very long in Bethesda.
Right.
And I actually don't remember the name of this piece. Is it called Finn?
Yeah, it's called Finn. Yes.
That's what I thought. And it's in our living room, and it's Jerry's favorite Foon piece.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we have this print. You can see the print that we purchased at Pyramid Atlantic about 2018. And that's the other thing we like to do. We like to buy things that and support nonprofit organizations that are supporting artists. So in the area, and we think Pyramid, which is also celebrating right now its 40th year. The Art Center is a little bit older, but so our collection, which we never thought of as a collection, has evolved, and we've been active recently because, as I said, we're not traveling as much. it's collecting is it's very nice because you become one, you have the bonus of living with gorgeous work that's inspiring. I wake up every morning seeing the small piece that you gave me when I left the Arlington Arts Center.
Yeah.
Red heart, Purple Heart.
Yes, Purple Heart. Yeah.
And every morning I wake up and I see that piece and I see Shala, a small Shala Ababi.
Yeah.
Another person who had a studio at the Art Center. And we have a very large piece by her also that's very difficult to photograph. You made the frame for it.
Yeah.
Because it's maybe 4x7 or something like that.
4x7. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very large piece and almost impossible to frame.
Yeah. It took me all night nonstop at Arlington Arts Center in my studio to frame her piece done by the day before I need to deliver to you. But again, I think from your perspective, I'm jealous in a way that you have a collection, not just art, but the artists behind it. You basically have me, David, and everybody in your house all the time, Charlotte, Andrea, all that people that are in your collection that actually our spirit and our presence are there, as you just said. You actually have all of us in your house at us, represented by the artwork and their ideas and
in person too.
So yeah. That was very nice way you've been doing, but I cannot thank you more and more that when I need the most help, you deliver the water that helped me to keep my life, chasing my art career alive when I really need the most, when I really can come up with so little rent that allow me to be a first sculptor, which many artists, art places say, no, too much sawdust, too much power, too much noise. And you gave me that support, which is, I'm sure you have to fight a lot of, against a lot of other people's wishes to get me in there. So I really appreciate that you gave me that help. And also been so long supporting and collecting and be to all my shows and openings. I can't thank you more. I'm deeply appreciated.
Well, it is, it's a pleasure because it has given Jerry and I so much joy to not only live with the art, but to know that we know the artists personally, that we care for them, and that we're in. This is something that we feel quite deeply, and it's a dialogue and a friendship that has been known almost 50 years.
Yes,
almost 50 years. So yeah. It feels good. It's so nice to talk to you, Foon. I really appreciate you taking the time.
And I'm so glad you give me a little time of talking to you over the art and then after I never seen your whole collection in a way, but you seeing a portion of your over the years what you have collected, and I think it's a good message to other people. We collect. You collect not just for other people sometimes do it for investment all that, but I think collect with a heart that you helping an artist. So that they can, and with your limited resources, that is even more respectful and impressive, and it all come out from your kind heart and and passion for other artists who are struggling to continue what they want to make.
It is not an easy profession. It's not an easy choice, and even the fact that you're a tenured professor at the University of Maryland and how excited I am. Most artists are adjuncts and they don't even have, retirement benefits or health insurance as a result. And, they cobble together jobs. And to me, it's a disgrace. So yeah. I'm glad that you're a tenured professor, and I've not only known you, but I've watched your children from infants to really wonderful adults. So
yeah.
thank you for taking
Thank
the
you
time.
too. Thank you so much. Deeply appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.